Hello and welcome to Module 2, where we're going to look at two common systems for implementing a health and safety policy. So that's two common management systems. And we've got to have that awareness of these mechanisms. Okay, we're going to look at HSG 65, Managing for Health and Safety. We've already looked at that in part. And also 45001, which also we have looked at that in part as well. HSG 65. Remember, we were saying earlier that the policy is implemented through a management system. That management system can be formal or informal, certified or not certified. This management system from the HSG 65, it is their guide. It's an informal system, but it does give you a system to follow, but it's not certifiable. It follows plan, do, check and act, PDCA. Not certifiable, and also it's not a legal requirement, so it is best practice. With this framework, it's got 9 elements, as we can see there. Plan, and we've got the policy, so that's what we're talking about, isn't it? Implementing the policy through a health and safety management system. That's part of the plan element, and then planning to put it in. That's where you're going to have your meetings. You're going to look across the organization to see what is required, who is going to do it, identify the right people, set yourself the right time frames. And then we're moving into doing that risk profiling, looking at the hazards and risks dependent on the context of the organization. Organizing, again, choosing who's going to be in those roles, making sure you're communicating with relevant departments within the organisation, so you've got that right information. Moving on to implementing the plan. As we move around into the check area, measuring performance. How well are we doing? So there could be proactive measures or reactive measures, but ultimately we are going to be measuring performance. There is actually an ISO for measuring performance, and that is ISO 45004. Investigating any accidents, incidents or near misses. So you can see this management system is far more than the policy, but actually when we're doing it, it is the policy. That's the interesting things about it. Investigating accidents, incidents and near misses. We're then going to take that information and we're going to act on it. So we're going to review our performance, review that information and then apply any lessons learned. So that then we've got plan it, do it, check it and act it. And that is the 9 elements of the HSG 65 framework. And we can see them there, starting off with plan, which is where the health and safety policy exists. ISO 45001, another management system. This one, this is the requirement from ISO, the International Organization for Standardization. Like HSG 65, it follows plan, do, check, act, which we'll have a look at in a moment. Unlike 65, it is certifiable, so you can get certified by a certification body. But also, like HSG 65, it's not a legal requirement otherwise. It is good practice. When we look at the 45001 risk management framework, we can see it's considering external and internal issues for our context. The context of the organisation is really important. This basically means what you do, what impacts you. You look at the needs and expectations of workers, and we do another uninterested parties, I should say, and then we can see us going into that planning, doing, checking, and then acting that improvement. And central to all of that, we got leadership and worker participation. So they are quite similar. One thing to ensure we take away is that the 9 elements of the HSG 65 framework, but there is over 30 elements of ISO 45001. And we're just looking at those elements here. So we can see context, leadership. If we start to look at the context, the scope, so where is our management system? So when we're implementing it, we have to work out, is it part of the organisation, all of the organisation, regional offices? And dependent on the organisation's strategy, then the scope can really have a bearing on how much effort is put in. You can see here with these plus 30 requirements that it is, I'm not going to say over and above because it's a fantastic risk management framework, but ultimately it's going to take more time, which means more money. So some organisations, they only apply it in certain areas. Leadership, that's where the policy comes in. Roles, responsibilities and authority. And then consultation and participation. So let's remind ourselves, we are implementing the policy through the management system, and we might document this, like I showed you earlier on, within the manual. That's why I have placed the ISO high-level harmonized structure into our fit-for-purpose manual. When we move into planning, this is where we start to look at risks and opportunities. But also what's important to realise in here when we're looking at risks and opportunities is we must assess the risk to the management system itself. That is the risk of not applying leadership, the risk of not doing training, the risk of not having emergency preparedness and response plans in place. So that's a really good thing. So that gives us a really good benchmark where we can risk assess this document, or what's supposed to be applied through this document, I should say. Legal requirements. So that's very good. The evaluation of compliance. When we look at determination of legal requirements, 613, we should also then go across and actually look at 912, the evaluation of compliance. Because what's interesting here is when we determine our legal requirements, and we've got to say, look, what legal requirements, let's just say manual handling operations, do they apply? Yes. What do they require? This. What are we doing? This. And then we have to evaluate that compliance. So we have to do an internal audit, or at least an assurance check, and record that as well to say that we've evaluated our compliance against those legal and other requirements. And other requirements, they could be contracts, they could be like SIP, like we've said earlier on. Other requirements, objectives and planning to achieve them. This is really good. This is what drives us. This is our planning. Earlier on, I showed you in the plan the objectives right at the very end. And it's good to have strategic level, tactical level and operational level objectives. Support, so competence, training and awareness. Do our workers know how to use equipment? Do they know the hazards? Do they know the legality of what they're doing? Really, really important. Documented information, ensuring that the correct documentation is available at the point of work. We don't want different versions of our management system, one on top on our computer and different ones out on site. It's got to be the same documentation. Moving into operations planning and control, eliminating hazards. This is the hierarchy of control when you look into this clause. Management of change. So this is probably one of the areas that I've been able to support companies the most over the years. Change is constant in organizations. The thing is, you go on holiday, somebody changes something. You change an address, you change a supplier, you change part of the management system. Those changes need to be managed. Otherwise, you're going to have version 1 mixed with version 3. And I don't mean documents as such. I mean just the way of doing things, your processes. Procurement, who are we using? Are we onboarding contractors by ensure we're checking that they are compliant? Do we do performance management on contractors? Do we check them every year? Because remember, insurances can run out. Organizations can fall foul. They can be prosecuted. You really do need to know that. So procurement is really important. Emergency preparedness and response. Specific to the standard, that doesn't just mean fire safety. It also means first aid as well, but also exercising and testing our plans. So we should look across the organisation. What emergencies could we have? How serious could they be? And then we should have a plan for that year to say when we are going to test those plans. So then we have a PXR, a post-exercise report, so we can review how well we've done. Really important clause 8.2. Everything then 9 and 10 is sort of looking back over the management system. How did we do? The evaluation of compliance, like we said just now. Evaluation 9.12 of the legal and other requirements in 6.13. Internal audit or 11 audit. Internal audit program, really important to set that internal audit program. 6 steps to managing an audit system, 6 steps to undertaking an audit. Managing an audit program is by far the most important element. Anybody can really audit, let's be truthful. How we audit, where we audit, that's the important part, really important. And then the management review is a specific part of ISO, because on that management review, you've actually got to say that you are adhering to all of these clauses. And that 9.3 really does link back also to, bear with me, 5.3. Because in 5.3, we were identifying somebody who's going to bring to the attention of the senior management the performance of this management system. So that 5.3 links up with 9.3 management review. And then we're into improvement, incident, non-conformity, corrective action. That's accidents, incidents, internal audit results as well we could put in there. So we get in that internal improvement, continual improvement, I should say. So implementing through a management system. Obviously, there's a lot of information in here. It's quite technical, but ultimately for what we're doing today in terms of the policy sits there. But remember, the policy is part of the management system. We can describe the management system in a manual. I can't get that across enough. Currently developing an occupational health and safety management course for Fit for Purpose, delivered like this. But currently we do actually have, with PCR Global, that our 45,001 course. Let me just go back. It is a really good course. We've had some absolutely fantastic feedback from those who sat in it. So go on the website, have a look. If you need to know more about a management system, spend the day doing it. That really is a good course. And as always, I give a lot of information away with it, lots of documentation. You get free access to this area as well. And once you can come back on it for no cost at all, as many times as you want. Over to the knowledge check. True or false? An occupational health and safety policy is implemented through the management system. Absolutely yes. Now, we've said that in a couple of the modules because it really is important to understand that. True or false? HSG 65, that's the management system from the HSE, is a certifiable standard. No, it's not. It's not certifiable. It's not from ISO. It is from the HSE. True or false? ISO 45 is guidance from the UK HSE. Well, it's not. That is HSG 65, as we know. ISO comes from the International Organization for Standardization. We go on. True or false? PDCA stands for Plan, Do, Check and Act. PDCA was in both of those management systems that we looked at, HSG 65 and ISO 45001. True or false? Plan, Do, Check and Act. That is true. True or false? HSG 65 and 45 are built on the PDCA approach. Yes, we know we are. We've just been talking about it. They are, I should say. And HSG 65 framework has 9 elements and ISO 45 has over 30. True, ISO 45001 does have a lot more requirements, but you haven't got to be certified to it. You can align yourself to it. It really is a good standard. So you should now have awareness of the mechanisms for implementing the policy. We looked at HSG 65 and we looked at ISO 45001. Now on to your formal knowledge assessment. Good luck.